This is Explain Everything on the Mexican-American War by me, Chris. 1/3 of the United States used to belong to Mexico, such as this area right here used to be over here. States like Colorado, Nevada, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, they used to be all part of Mexico. But then the U.S. had to try to take that land away from them to make the United States as its own place. The United States thought they had a God-given right to own the continent. Because of this, the Mexican-American War had broken out. A 2-year-long battle had broken out between the two countries, and it had taken the lives of 19,000 people in total. This war was also called the Invasion of Mexico, or the U.S. War against Mexico and the U.S. Intervention. It was a war that lasted from 1846 all the way through 1848. This war had a huge impact on the way the United States looks today, because Mexico used to be this whole area here. But since the war, this became the United States. Starting off with the United States thinking that they had a God-given right to own the entire continent, U.S. thought they could buy the land from Mexico for about $15 million, which at the time was a lot. Mexico had said no and refused that offer because they wanted to keep their land all the way through middle of the western part of the United States. A general by the name of Zachary Taylor, which is this man right here, had sent troops to the northern part of the Rio Grande, and Mexico had seen this as an act of war, so they sent troops to the Rio Grande too, so that's where they would meet. This river right here had been under dispute if it should be the country's border between Mexico and the United States. So once the Mexican troops had arrived at the Rio Grande, they ambushed the troops, the United States troops, and had killed 16 men. So once that news had reached the President of the United States at the time, James Polk, which is this man right here, Congress had officially declared war on Mexico, and so the war started in 1846 and would last for 2 years. This 2-year-long war had started with the Battle of Palo, Alto, which you can see in this picture right here, which had been won by the United States. It was fought on May 8th and had been led by General Zachary Taylor, which is this man right here. The United States had 5 men killed, and Mexico had about 102 casualties. So that's a pretty big difference. Now, General Santa Anna, which is right here, he was a general from Mexico, and he was captured in Texas, and he was forced to sign a peace treaty saying that Texas would be its own province. Mexico had lost the Texas Revolution, and that is why Santa Anna had been captured and forced to sign the agreement. In 1847, the U.S. had sent Nicholas Triste to try and negotiate with Mexico to end the war, and for the United States to own the land without any more casualties. Mexico, however, declined the negotiation and wanted to keep the land that was rightfully theirs. So the United States kept fighting, and Mexico kept fighting. So it was just one big mess between Mexico and the USA. This man right here is Nicholas Triste. So the United States had sent him to try and negotiate, but Mexico had declined because they wanted to keep their land, which the United States was trying to steal from them, or originally buy it from them. In September of 1848, the final battle had taken place in Mexico's capital, Mexico City. Mr. General Winfield Scott, which is on his stallion or horse, had landed in Veracruz, which is right in this picture. And he had marched along with his men, as you can see in the back. He had marched with his men to Mexico City, where the Battle of Chapultepec Castle was fought. Now, here, 1,000 men and cadets bravely defended this castle down here, which was Chapultepec Castle. And the United States had kept on fighting until there was no more of the Mexicans to defend this castle. So then General Scott had placed the American flag up onto the castle, which was the first time in history where the United States had placed their flag on any foreign capital. President James Polk had done a good job in ordering the generals and winning the war for the United States and gaining more land, which was down here. They took it away from Mexico and added it to the present-day United States. Now, to signify the end of this war, both countries had signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which is this one right here. The war was officially over, and the United States had gained 520,000 square miles in new land from Mexico. I believe that this event and this war have caused change in the United States history, because without this event, all this land right here would probably still be Mexico's, and the United States would probably be reduced down to only this of what it originally is. Now, since these 520,000 square miles of land had been acquired for the United States, that gave the United States more land for agriculture or people to live on, and just general things like that. Since the United States had to use force to get the land that supposedly God had given to them, they had started a war with Mexico. Since there were Mexicans at the time in Texas, the treaty had stated that any resident in Texas that was Mexican could stay there and live there without being forced to move back as they are forced to today. I also believe that since the Mexicans were allowed to stay in Texas, they helped shape a kind of culture that you can see in Texas and all throughout this area of the United States,